Hello everyone, and welcome back to the next video for the Clone Wars MOC update series. And in this video I actually go back in and added some more terrain and some small individual details to the village area, and then I also modify one of the main buildings so that it actually fits more with the overall feel of the village. So I kind of just do all these individual little details, and then this is actually the last normal episode of the Clone Wars MOC update series. The next video you'll see in this series will actually be the finale. So we're getting very close to the end here, very exciting. I talk a little bit about the finale at the end of the video, so if you got time, definitely stick around to that. I'll give you some more details on when you can expect the finale and stuff like that, because I've still got a lot of work ahead of me, but I want to do this right. I want to finish the MOC off strong, but for now, this episode will pretty much entirely be about adding in some small details and polishing off the village. So without any further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so the goal for today's episode here is to finish up a few things in the village. This is going to be kind of like cleaning up / adding a few more details before we get to the finale here. So I think I'm just going to go back in and, like, for this building right here, add in some battle damage so it actually fits the rest of the village, because right now it's kind of doesn't really fit the rest of the village too much because this thing's pretty much mostly intact. So I'm going to destroy a little bit of it, add some battle damage to it, and hopefully that'll make it match a little more with the rest of the village here. And then I'm also going to add in, so you see all the dark tan spots where there's no road, and it's just kind of flat and everything like that. I'm going to go in, and you see right there I've got a piece of like a little bit of terrain there. I'm going to go ahead and add that in to all these spots because it's kind of just wide open right now. And I don't want it to just be dark tan like studs showing, so in terms of like a flat base plate. So I'm going to go ahead and add in some terrain and touch up some areas. Overall, this is just going to be like a repair episode and getting ready for the finale, so it should be pretty fun, and I'm going to go ahead and get to work. Alright guys, so I'm over here in the building from the last two episodes. If you guys remember, I've been working on this last large building structure for quite a while now. In last episode I mentioned adding in some like destroyed rubble to the build because it felt kind of empty down in here, and this is a very destroyed building, so I felt like there needed to be some more kind of battle damage on the floor and everything. Like as parts of the building collapsed, you know, it kind of fell onto the ground. So the first design that I went up here and used were these 1x1, the 1x1 studs, but they're smooth. So like the 1x1 circular stud shape, but they're just smooth on top. There's no actual like Lego stud on top, and then I mixed those in with some Technic parts. So you can kind of see I've got one pile over there, another pile off and to the right, and then one more pile right there, and I've actually got a clone trooper stuck in there. I'll go to the other side to show you it, but it's pretty cool. So here's all these destroyed elements. You can kind of see, taking a step back, it definitely, you know, I think looks a little better, because before it was just completely plain and there just wasn't anything even on the bottom, and it was like, well, it felt like everything just disappeared, like the building broke, but there was no damage, it all just disappeared. So I wanted to go in and add some more stuff to make it feel a little more realistic with the collapsed building here. Here's a little bit of a closer look at all the individual detail pieces that I used to create this little rubble area. As you can see, all the pieces down there, I kind of stacked a lot of them upside down, and then I went in and added another layer where I just kind of dropped them at a good height and just let them kind of fall in place. So it's a mix of randomly placed ones and then more ones that I actually went in and placed at specific areas to kind of give it this feel. You can see like the different Technic pieces and just the normal studs and like the smooth tiled studs, and then I put some of the pillars on top to kind of make it feel, you know, like a larger destroyed area. So alright, and there is the clone trooper who's stuck underneath the rubble. As I was building these other two ones over here, I thought that it would be a cool idea to have one clone trooper who's kind of stuck under there. So you can see I placed all the individual smaller pieces that I used for the other rubble, but I just put a clone trooper in there first and then started stacking pieces in and around and behind him and on top of him as well. And then I put one of the pillars kind of on top, and that's kind of the thing that, the giant pillar is the thing keeping him down right there, and then all this small rubble is just kind of gathered up around him, and you can see his legs are kind of showing out there at the bottom, but still pretty much covered. And then we've got one of his fellow clone troopers who's coming in here to try to pull him out of there. So I thought this was a really cool element to add in there. Again, just all these different elements in the MOC where the clones are just getting kind of, you know, they're having a rough go at it during this battle. They've got well, first off, they don't have the high ground, so that's a big battle with the actual mountain. So they've got to assault this giant fortress, and they have to deal with like this local militia that's still hiding in the village, and this new destroyed building. And poor clone troopers are falling off the top floor, and they're, stuck under the rubble. All this different battle damage. Because I'm really, again, more of a story element. I'm really trying to make this seem like the Republic during this battle is at a huge disadvantage because, I mean, they're assaulting a giant fortress. So I'm really trying to give that chaotic feel that the clones are just like outnumbered, they're outgunned, they get to assault this nearly impossible thing. It's going to be a hard fight for the clones, and that's what I think makes a lot of MOCs more interesting, is when you can have a cool story element behind it, even though it's not like a stop motion, like brick film, we're actually doing like a film type thing. I think MOCs can have a story around it, and to me that's one of the big things that draws me to making these large scaled MOCs, is having a story behind it. Every building, every structure, every piece has like a story reason behind it. And then especially the figure placement, that's a whole story by itself. So to me, that's what makes building MOCs super fun, is like the whole story element. And then of course, what's fun is with MOCs is like during the final showcase video, you guys can sit through and you're watching all the figures and you can kind of come up with your own story. Like when you see the slideshow of the pictures, that's what's also really fun. Brick films and films like that, you kind of see the story in front of you. It's being presented. This is being presented, but it's also just a bunch of pictures and videos of a MOC. So you can kind of build your own characters and story, even though you didn't build the build. Like when you watch online with the slideshow and the video, you can just make up your own story, and I think that's really cool. And with Brickworld MOCs in particular, it's really cool is when you have your build out during the public days and all the people get to come through and see your build. I mean, and you see it with the adults, but also the kids in particular, when you kind of stop and they're kind of looking at the build and they're looking at all, the mini features and everything. And it almost feels like you can tell that they're kind of like formulating their own story in their mind. Because kids have like, great imaginations. They're playing all day. They're, imagining things all day long. So when they are at Brickworld and they see all these cool builds, what's really awesome, and one of the main reasons I do this, like why I love it so much, is when the kids come by and look at the builds, they get inspired, and you can tell they're formulating like their own story just by looking at the minifigures in particular. So to me, that's always one of the most fun things about Brickworld, is watching the public days and having them come in and look at the build, but more in particular, just like watching the kids come and just look at the build, and they like have the smile on their face, and they're kind of getting inspired, and then maybe they tell their mom they want to go home and build something like that. Like that always gets me every time. So that's one of the reasons I love Brickworlds, and one of the reasons why I absolutely love making MOCs. Alright, so here's some more work on the kind of terrain in the village here, and I actually started to add in some plant life, and I chose olive green as the main color. I don't have a whole lot of olive green kind of plant pieces, but I found all the ones I have, and I want to use them in the back section because other areas of the MOC do have olive green. I think it's called olive green. That's just what I call it. I don't know what its official name is, but I've got 1x1s plates spread out throughout the entire MOC, so I thought it'd be good to tie everything back together and have more olive green elements in the village portion back here. So that's kind of what I got going on in this small area right here. And then as I show you guys some of the other parts of the MOC that I continue to work on, I'll add in some more plant life throughout the village. Now we're over here kind of by the dock area. I added in a few more terrain things along the side here. You can kind of see what I'm going for here. Again, lots of small stuff, but I'll show you guys the wide shot here in a little bit, because the wide shot is really where you're going to see kind of why all of these little terrain things are so important in the overall MOC. Alright, and then here's over here kind of by the large building that's in the middle of the town. You can see I kind of added in a few more olive plant things, and it kind of helps hide that like machine gun position in there. I don't know about the two leaves, but I'll probably be keeping this one for sure. I don't know about like those two outer kind of leaves right there, but yep, thought it'd be cool to make this MG nest a little more hidden so the clones can get ambushed when they're walking down the street here. Alright, so over here on the kind of front area of the MOC, here's the building with the trench for reference. Right down over here I did a little bit more terrain work and added in some olive green elements. I want to just add in as much olive green as I can, because it makes the MOC a little more unique if it's, not just, dark gray, light gray, brown, dark tan, maybe olive green is definitely a good change of pace for the overall look and feel of the entire build, so that's why I'm going with olive green. I don't have a lot of olive green, so I'm using it very sparingly, kind of throughout the MOC wherever I can. So right here, I decided to add a little bit more. I thought it looked kind of cool with the more destroyed building back there, and then it's kind of like a vine or a little like weed or kind of plant, you know, is like growing right there, because it's kind of all destroyed and everything like that. I thought that would be kind of a cool feature. So there's some more olive green back in this corner. All right, and as you guys can see here is the wide shot with all of the little terrain things completed. I don't know how well you can kind of get a glimpse of everything here on camera, but essentially just kind of like the terrain here in the beginning of the mock or the front, all these little patches, these little hills of terrain in the village. It's not really anything that's supposed to make you look at it, if that makes sense. It's more of just when you take a step back, it's supposed to all blend together. So now there shouldn't be as many, you know, individual just dark tan areas that don't have anything on them. I'm not finished completely yet. There's some still kind of like stuff down there and such to finish up, but for the most part now there's not any giant spots without any terrain. So it's one of those very, very small things that, like, really just in the wide shots you can kind of tell that it makes a difference. And it's one of those things where I wanted to make sure I did that because I've been putting it off for a while because it wasn't that you know, it's not like this super fun thing to do, but it really makes everything look more complete. And that is obviously the main goal here. So for the most part, all these little mounds of terrain are very close to done. If not, I'll probably just work on them a little bit more here and there throughout the finale, but for the most part, they are good to go for now. And next step here is this building up front. I am going to go back in, take some of it apart, and kind of redo a lot of this and make it more battle damaged, because all these other buildings in the village here are, you know, very, very damaged, like in the back, or just parts of it are destroyed. And this one just kind of standing here, it looks very weird because it's just, you know, completely stable and intact. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to make it destroyed. I'm going to kind of make it a similar way to kind of the top right there where there's all these little different holes with slopes and 1x1s and stuff like that. That's kind of the goal for this building, because right now it just looks very weird with all the other buildings being destroyed, and this one's just perfectly fine. So this is the next step right here, is to work on this building and add some battle damage. So I'm going to go ahead and get to work on that, and I'll update you guys as I go along. Alright, so I have worked on the front building here, and as you can see, I essentially went back in and just tore this whole wall apart and started to get to work on it. Kind of the main element I'm going for here is, imagine, I guess the word that kind of came to mind when I wanted to make this building was like skeleton. So I just, like, the word skeleton to me just kind of stood out as like, oh, that'd be cool. Not like this is a skeleton of a building, but it's like in the process of being like a skeleton of what once was like this actual full standing building, which you saw like in the previous like segment before I actually tore this thing apart and started to redesign the battle damage parts. So up here in the front, you can see I went with a similar design that I've done with all the other buildings, with a lot of 1x1s, plates and tiles and such, to kind of give it a cool destroyed look. So I added in a bunch of different patches right there, and then that little hole down there is the same as it was before. That's where like a clone trooper is going to be crawling from the basement out into the trench. But there's all these other elements that are kind of destroyed now, and you can kind of see, I think it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to work on this and do it on the other sides, and then hopefully once I get the other sides done here, it'll look, you know, the building will fit with all the other buildings in the village area, because a lot of them are mostly destroyed. And then here's what that building looks like with the battle damage elements from kind of a wide shot here. You can kind of see how you just can't really even see what's in the building. It's just kind of dark in there, kind of blackened out, and I think that looks gives a really cool effect, especially when you kind of step back and when it starts to really fit in with the other parts of the village here. So this is kind of what it looks like from far away, but I'm going to now get started and go ahead and work on all the other sides of the building to get this thing looking pretty good. Another thing that I messed around with on this building was this cool new, I kind of stumbled upon this while I was building. I was like stacking all these individual plates, and I found out that if you stack, you can kind of see right there in the middle, you can stack 1x1 tiles together. They don't actually connect, but you can just like pile them on top of each other and stack them up, and it gives a really cool textured look to it. Doesn't look like, you know, it doesn't look like, since they don't actually connect, it gives a different look than, you know, if you were to do it just with 1x1s with studs on them like the normal ones. You wouldn't get the same look because since like these tiles can't actually connect on top of each other. So I thought that was kind of cool, so I added that in there right there. And then also down there, you can kind of, right there, you can kind of see down in the left corner, I did the same thing. You kind of can stack them and move them. Since they're not connected, you can kind of slowly push them off to the side to make them look more like destroyed, if that makes sense, like I did down there where they're kind of like offset. So I thought that was really cool. I don't know if maybe that's a thing that people have already done before. I just kind of stumbled upon it while I was stacking a bunch of 1x1s. I was like, oh, I wonder what this would look like if I just did this with tiles, and then kind of got this look. So I think I'm going to try to add this into a few more spots because I think it gives it a cool, unique, like textured look, and it looks different than all the other parts of the building that are just 1x2 and 1x1s, like with studs stacked on each other compared to just tiles. So I thought that was interesting. Thought I'd share it real quick before I move on to the rest of the building. All right, and here's the other side of the building here. I went back in and added some more battle damage on this side. I didn't want to make it as heavily battle damaged as I did on this side right here because this side over here is facing towards the mountain and like where a lot of the battle is going to be, like on the fortress. So presumably a lot of the fire and all the different battle droids shooting all their artillery and wrist rockets and all their blaster fire would hit this side, not as much this side. So that's why this side doesn't have as much battle damage on it, but still has a little bit on it. I went with a lot more studs on this one because I think the studs kind of like almost make it seem like it was about to connect to something. It's like you can kind of tell that was about to connect to the bottom because the stud kind of displays that, if that makes sense. That's kind of what I was going for, and that's why I wanted to use a little more studs kind of like on this side. But nothing too complex, not too bad, and I'm going to show you guys the rest of the building now. Now here is the front of the building here. I went back in, and if you remember from one of the previous episodes about this building, this side on the left was just all dark gray, and so was the other side, so I went back in and actually added in all of the light gray elements you can see all throughout here. I went back in and changed it so it fit the rest of the building, added in some more battle damage, nothing too special, and I kind of did the same thing down there. Again, this side is not really facing as much towards the main battle, so probably not as much battle damage on this one, and then I've still got the door right there here in the front. And then lastly is this side over here. You can see for this one, instead of a whole bunch of different destroyed little parts, I kind of went in and just had 3 main ones. So you've got the very small one over there on the left, the also very small one up on the top, and then down there at the bottom you can see I've got another kind of small battle damage hole down in there. The reason I did it for this one was mainly because I actually really liked the way this side of the building actually looked, so I didn't want to take it apart too much. So I just did a lot more smaller battle damage elements so it fits in with the rest of the village. But that's pretty much all of the different sides and new battle damage that I added to this building here. Alright guys, and with that, that's going to be the end of this episode. Pretty much, now that this episode is over, I have gotten almost everything done in the village that I wanted to get done before the finale. There's still a few things I'm going to touch up in the finale, but I won't talk about those now. But since I got most of the stuff done here, that means that is the last normal episode we are going to have in this series. The next episode you will see will be the finale of this series. So the village is looking really, really good. I'm very happy with it. I've been, messing around with camera angles. There's a lot of cool little individual angles and levels where you can get some really cool pictures and video of the actual build. So I've been, practicing getting some good angles and all sorts of cool stuff. I'm very happy with this village. Again, there's a few things I'm going to fix up here during the finale, but overall, very happy with it. You can see now in the wide shot again, all the little mounds of terrain really build up and add to the actual village. And then this building looks good now that it's a little more battle damage and matches the others. So in the finale for this series, essentially what will happen is it'll probably be a fairly long episode if I had to take a guess, but I will be finishing up the last of the terrain over here. You can see there's a few plates that I haven't really done yet. I'm going to be pretty much going back in and kind of repairing all the stuff that's been kind of damaged. In particular, I'll be probably working on that mountain a little bit more and some of those kind of empty spots up there. I'll be retouching some of the stuff in the hangar, and then the hallways I'll also polish off. Essentially, it's just going to be one big episode, finishing everything off, all the stuff that I've kind of said I'll come back to later. I'm going to come back to in the finale. I'm going to get that done. So I'm really, really excited, but also a little sad that the series is coming to an end, but the finale will be awesome. And then, of course, after the finale, will be the full-on cinematic video of this MOC. It'll almost be a year in the making. Actually, December 6th, 2019 was the first update video for this MOC. So we are approaching a whole entire year on this build. That's the longest I've ever worked on a build. And I'm just very excited to get this completed. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm very excited. So finale will be the next episode. I don't know when it's going to come out because it's going to be a lot of work getting everything prepared and ready, but as soon as I get the finale done, I will post it. I just don't know exactly when that'll line up with dates yet, But I'm very excited. Hope you guys are excited as well. And let's move on to the outro. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you did enjoy. And with this episode, this is the last of the normal episodes for the Clone Wars mock update series. It's kind of weird just saying that, but the next episode will be like the big finale episode. I don't know when exactly it's going to come out because there's there's still a lot of things I need to get done on the mock. And I want to make sure I have a good finale episode for this series. And it's just crazy that this is the last normal episode. I've been working on this for pretty much very close to a year at this point. It's hard for me to think that this is, coming to a close, but I'm really excited to finish it. I'm just super excited to just get this thing complete, set up all the figures, make the cinematic video. It's going to be so much fun. And I hope you guys enjoy like the final mock and the big showcase and everything. And again, I can't thank you guys enough for watching all these, update videos. If you're new, if you've been here since the beginning of this mock or in the middle, just like it means so much to me. And this series has definitely been like the most engagement that I've had from people. I've had the most fun making this series. You guys seem to enjoy this mock and the videos, so I can't thank you guys enough for supporting all these videos. And we've got this video, and then the finale, and then the cinematic video, and that's probably going to be it. I'm going to be working really hard to finish this thing, getting the finale out as soon as I can. So I hope you guys are excited for that. And as always, leave your feedback in the comment section below for this build. I kind of start a lot of different things, and since this is the last video, if you have any last minute ideas you think I should add to the mock, put them in this comments in this video, because this will probably be the last time I'm able to actually read your guys' comments for feedback and then actually change stuff in the mock before the finale. So any ideas, overall, general, anything in the entire mock, not just the village, could be the mountain, the battlefield, the hallways, the hangar, any suggestions, feedback you want to give on the whole mock as a whole, that would be very, very helpful as I go into preparing for the finale. So as always, I hope you guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.